Forever is the strangest thing. It's shorter than you think. No think. Longing is the music of our sphere. The gift of life is never more or less. It starts at any time you like and ends in just a wink. Pass me the lighter, baby.
O Māori e whakarawalahi atu, welcome to Nightcap. My name is Elliot Ikilei. It is my pleasure that you are here with us. So yes, I am. I'm still just trying to figure out a good time for this weekly. Most of you guys have been messaging me. Thank you so much for your interaction. Some of you are quite brutally harsh, and I do appreciate that as well. But it looks like Wednesday night is what you do prefer, and around about the 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So I'm just working my way through that. Those of you who know me, and I know that quite a few out there, you do know me, you are aware that I am a TIDS optimist. And a TIDS optimist, of course, is someone who is very optimistic with their time. So, look, I thank you so much for coming in. Kellyanne, oui, let's roll. Hey, yay, very good. Diddy with the Heidi High. Heidi High, what's it? I can't remember the reply. Hody Ho or something like that. Great fun on those ones. SFH, I don't know what that means, but and this is a ST or something like that in there. Okay, but look, thank you so much for joining me. As always, g'day Joe, good to see you in there on our YouTube channel there. Great to see you. As always, if you want to have a bit of a question or a kōrero or anything like that, please feel free to throw it in there, whether we agree or disagree. I love the idea of discourse. I think it's so important that we don't lose that idea of free speech, because, you know, it's refining, it's understanding. there is a particular book that I like which discusses around the idea of as one person is to one person, so is iron to iron, and that refinement can help sharpen, help strengthen, help refine our arguments, understandings, and ideas, and perhaps even change minds as well. So, thank you for joining in. Awesome, very good to see you in there. Right, so pretty massive week. Honestly, it seems like every single week there's something more and more coming on board. Of course, we had, what's the hilarious one that's just happened? Ginny, thank you. Thank you, Ginny. I just want to put that out there that she's put that. So, massive week, of course. Kiwi Saver, the government's very quiet idea of how to tax it, and then they come out and say, oh, no, we were just trying to fix a situation. Oops, our bad, but look, you guys don't want it, then so be it. Now, I think for all of you out there, for most of you, and definitely myself, we'll say that's absolutely rubbish, that the government has been found out, there was only so long that printing money and borrowing money was only going to stack up this house of cards for so long. They are in trouble. We are in a lot of trouble. And so that is a very big problem, and they're going to need to just tax anything and everything. What the situation is, of course, is that they've turned around and they have said, no, we're not going to do that. And I think that is something which is important to take note of, that such amount of backlash that would have come from it would have been huge, consistent, and so harsh. And the problem with that is that this actually reminds me of when Phil Goff was trying to place the age of sexual consent from 16 down to 12. And that was when he got growled and he was told off for that, and his response was not to say, so sorry, we should not be changing the age of sexual consent. Instead, he said that it is apparent that the public aren't aware of what this actually is, so we're going to have to say no for now. It was no apologize or anything like that. Sorry, I'm just giving my boy a bit of a look because he's messy. Good. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Very good. So there's a lot of problems already with this government. I wanted to bring up some things that have occurred as well that are breaking that government narrative, something which is really, really strong as well. One of those things is, of course, institutional racism. You know that the government has now started a bit of a policy of institutional racism, whether it's through the medical priority list. So I am Pacifica Māori, therefore myself and my children are considered to be more valuable than it is to a white person or a straight Asian person or an Indian person. It is disgusting, it is wrong, utterly disgusting. But this government has been pushing that narrative of systemic racism is the reason why why Māori specifically are actually having trouble in their healthcare. Well, of course, they decided there was I'm going to show this here. All right, this is from the New Zealand Institute. All right, and the New Zealand Institute actually had a look at the figures, because as we know, there's a lot of people out there who, as soon as you say anything, it'll be just considered racism. Well, government claims lack evidence and risk overall health benefits. Honestly, I don't know why this has to be academic research. We know this. All right. And here you can see this. The government, nor the MOH, nor the Ministry of Health could produce objective data to support their claims that systemic racism is significantly to blame for poor Māori health outcomes. All right. The initiative, the New Zealand initiative, we're going to also release elements of that. It is every life is worth the same. The case for equal treatment. Now, can I just remind you of what that is? The case for equal treatment. That now we're having to have high-level academic people actually step in there and say, we believe that you should be treated according to your need, not your skin color, and we're going to have to present all this empirical data and show you data sets that explains why we should treat people based off their need and not their skin color. It is an idiotic situation that we find ourselves in when people just lazily throw around this idea of, oh, it's institutional racism. Word? Is it? Because institutional racism, by its very definition, must be part of the institution. It must be a lever, a policy. It must be some type of filter system within the bureaucracy that says if they are this skin colour, they get this, or if they're this skin colour, they don't get that. That's institutional racism. It is utterly insane. And the fact that we have to have the New Zealand Institute actually step in there and say, yeah, we should actually make a case that all people should be treated equally. It's utterly insane. It really is. And I'm just shocked that so many people, so many Kiwis, still get sucked into this this lie, this deception, that systemic racism is at the core of poor Māori health, whether it's poor Māori justice. When they come out and say, oh, a white man will get less punishment than a brown man. Very lazy. Very lazy. All right, those are very lazy thoughts going into that. It's utterly shocking. And of course, that in terms of school, and there's a bit of hope here that I have as well. So, critical race theory, the idea that white people are to blame for everything and the Western culture is a horrible culture. I'm paraphrasing their ideology quite a lot. But in New Zealand, of course, we do have that. In fact, in New Zealand, it is most pronounced because, of course, we've got He Puapua document, which at the end of He Puapua document, it is nothing less than the breaking down of white people government, as they would term it, and it is the installment of what they would refer to as indigenous government, whatever indigenous is now in current New Zealand. We also have it in schools, and it is quite shocking. I did a report on it in 2019, I think it was, and in New Zealand schools, it is called Te Huri Hanganui. Te Huri Hanganui, that is the name of the CRT, or critical race theory, in New Zealand. And it's all couched in this new wokeism style aspect of te akonga Māori, te akonga Tauiwi, te akonga Pākehā. So you'll find that one of the first things they do in that document is that they will split you up into three categories. Or no, not split you, they'll split your children up into three categories. Your child will either be a Pākehā, which is a European or British descent, one of the colonisers. You be Māori, therefore one of who whakapapa. I don't know if they are starting with the percentage marks yet, but I think at the moment it's just Māori. And then you've got Tauiwi, which is visitor or guest. There are different terms, and of course now the academics are trying to redefine it into the way that they want it. And Tauiwi is basically someone who's just basically a foreigner. If you're Indian, if you're Samoan, if you are from Holland or South Africa, you are Tauiwi. Now that's absolutely wrong, of course. That is again, it is a racist and a divisive way of cutting up your 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old child into that. And just like the gender ideology, that we are very proud to have been the ones to expose that, also just the same way in that way, though the children also have learning outcomes from that. So when they use terms like, te tiriti o Waitangi is how we formulate our method statements and all that sort of stuff, it's absolutely nonsense. Right? The Treaty of Waitangi, the one before the 1980s when the academics got a hold of it and started mangling everything, it's actually a great document. I love it. I think it's a great document. I think that Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3 are good. Article 1, that's the cost. Article 1 is the cost of doing business with the Crown. We wanted the support of Queen Victoria at the time. This was the cost. Article 2, that nuance, the ability to sell and engage in capital ventures and sale of trade, mercantile system, really excellent. And of course, Article 3, that powerful statement, the idea that all people are equal, that all New Zealanders, all ordinary New Zealanders were to have the same rights and responsibilities as those of the Empire. Extraordinary document. You've got the academics now, these new radicals, who just want to say, oh, as an evil white man came over with their white god and they whitened everything and they just, you treat like trash and they sucked them in. They didn't suck Māori in. Māori is strong. Oh, I tell you. I love all of the parts of myself. Māori, Tonga, Niue, English. I love all the parts of myself. Pasifika are not as strong individual-minded as Māori. And I say that in a generic, or in a stereotypical sense. I know I'm talking stereotypes, Stereotypically, Māori are very individualistic, even though they come from the idea of collective areas of very strong ones. They become very strongly independent-minded. Therefore, if they wanted to say something, they'll just say it. All right, you know that, they'll just say it. All right, and I love that. When I was the Kai Kōrero, I was so honoured to be asked by Mr. Don Brash to be part with one of his wingmen when we went on to the Pōwhiri for Te Marae, to the lower marae of Waitangi. And when we went on that marae, it's great fun, It was a time of, we went through the Pōwhiri section where we were able to speak our hearts in a loving manner, all the pieces of the words of peace. Then we broke bread together, and I'll tell you what, Don Brash was sitting all amongst the Māori there, and they were trying, all the guys there at the lower marae, they were running up to Don and they wanted to get selfies and they wanted to take photos with him, and there was there was none of this, ooh, you suck, none of this. We're talking hardcore te ao Māori, flying tino rangatiratanga flags, hardcore. And they were jumping up, they wanted to have photos with him, and they were smiling and laughing, shaking hands. There was none of this stuff that you see in the universities, the intolerant, brutal, vacuous ideological universities. None of it. It was excellent. Kellyanne, why do we have to fight for fairness and then be labelled as troublemakers? Great question, Kellyanne. This is, of course, part of the way in which the left do engage, is that they put forward... This is actually a weakness of us as conservatives, and as conservatives or right-wingers. You've got the conservative who are the middle, then you've got those who are on the right, like the libertarians and those guys, and we become into a bit of a problem because we do tend to fight with facts and nuance and individualism more than the other side. Because when you are conservative and when you're on the right, you believe in individual rights. You believe in the idea that the merit of the cause is what you should argue, not this groupthink mentality. Well, on the left, of course, is about that allegiance to the state, allegiance to a governing body. All right, and the further left you go, the more harder to obey whoever is on top of you. That's generally how it goes. And so when you are, it really is if you don't believe the way that we believe, you are not just disagreeing with us, you are evil. You are a bad person. You are someone who needs to be shut down, and you're bad. You are a threat to us. Just by disagreement. Just by disagreeing with what we believe, you are no longer part of the collective, and therefore you must be shut up, shut down, and shipped off somewhere else. All right, this is where it gets really ideologically driven. All right, so when they say, "Oh, you're being racist," laugh it off. Just laugh in their face. Laugh in their face, because come on, we all know who the majority of the people who sit there and yelling at you and say, "Oh, you're a white supremacist, you're a white racist." We know. Hey, what colour are they mostly? All right, and I know because I get it a lot. Na Pālangi, Pākehā, white. All right, that's what I find. I find that is such a... So they love to hijack skin colour for their own desires, to pump themselves up. It is disgusting. But my biggest thing that I've always said is just crack up, laugh in their face. All right, when they do, don't get angry. Don't defend. Don't say sorry. Don't say sorry. As soon as you say the word sorry, for them, that is a weakness for them. They can smell. That's blood in the water for them. And they are bullies. Not all of them. Some of them mean well. But the ideological positioning means that when they engage in trying to shut you down, it becomes a bullying mob, a pack, if you will. All right. While conservatives and libertarians, we want to argue the points. We're arguing vociferously. The left don't do that. They gang up, and you believe what we believe, or we shut you down, whether and however that means. All right. So let's have a little hook. They have no humility. They use evil slang words to shut us up. That's absolutely right. Just crack up at them. They got no idea, honestly. You know, they are just hilarious. They really are. Titled, you're one of them. I have no idea what that means, but sorry if you can. Tell us along. That'll be awesome. What do we got here? Lucy Makawa. Thank you for this korero. Yes, laugh it off. Yep. Kia ora. Very, very good. Powerful, very powerful. We've got Glenn. When Honi cut down the flagpole, Māori reinstated and flew the English flag. Māori knew they ceded sovereignty and looked for English law and order. They knew we were all equal. And isn't it fascinating as to where the flag was also cut down? It was cut down in the most horrific place. What was it? The hellhole of the South Pacific, I think that area was called. Because, please, I might get this wrong. So tell me if I get this wrong. But my understanding is that the flag that Honi Heke shut down wasn't actually in Paihia, that it was in Russell. Well, Waitangi area, but it was in Russell. But I might be wrong. Okay, I'm open to that sort of area. And may I just say that this is a discussion that I have often. I do have this often, is that the idea of Māori, te reo Māori being spoken of in schools. And, we do discuss it, but the fact is that the 335 Māori who petitioned the government and said, hey, we know that this new economic world is coming, we want a part of it, we want our kids to be a part of it, therefore we want you to stop allowing te reo Māori spoken of in the school, and so stop it. The government, of course, agreed, and then they engaged in it as well. So then they got smacks. Just the same as if you were right and left-handed, if you didn't do your homework, if you spoke out of turn, if you came late, ate your food in the wrong place, all of the rules, they got corporal punishment. I know of a couple of these, so I've got a couple of people in my circle who I know that both of those families come from that family, and they're doing really well. They own land, they're farmers, or they're farming family anyway. And the other one is doing really well in Australia, doing real well actually. Owns a few houses and just really taking it on. And still, they love Te Ao Māori. They do not like what's the new stuff, this new racism that Labour's pushing. But they love their tikanga and both sets are Tainui too. Actually, interestingly enough, or Tainui or a little bit south. Yep. Right. Yes, for myself, I'm Te Atiawa Ngāti Raukawa. Those are my links, and my whakapapa, or my genealogy, also contains, for example, some of Te Rauparaha's warband. We do have land, and that land was taken by blood and slavery, by murder and slavery. No, I feel absolutely no compunction to apologise for what my ancestors did. My ancestors did horrific things. Murder, rape, slavery, disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But I will not apologise for it because I didn't do it. And I take none of that. And if you are Pākehā, if you're Pālangi, don't sit there and just allow Māori, or not even Māori, other white people, to somehow say, you're part of the problem. Systemic racism comes from your people. Over in Britain, you need to bugger off back there. Tell them get stuffed. You're a Kiwi, you're a Kiwi. Don't worry about it. There's no white or brown or yellow or black. You're Kiwi, you're Kiwi. You know which people sort of get left out of the argument here, who were here in the 1800s? Chinese gold miners. And they were treated like crap. And when I mean garbage, I mean they were treated really as dogs. I know you get some sort of radical woke academics who say, Māori were treated like dogs. No. Have a look at the Chinese. The Chinese were treated like absolute rubbish. They were literally spat upon. They were treated like actual dogs. They worked their way up to the bone. All right. So it's good. Just for my nightcap, just to let you know. All right. I'm having some honey. This is honey mead. All right. And some of you probably know that I'm a bit of a LOTR fan. Not this new one that's coming on, but the Lord of the Rings, the books, and the Peter Jackson film. The name of this drink is called Lothlorien. I also believe in buying as much of the New Zealand stuff as I can, and I got this in Taupo. All right, so they were the wholesalers there. Really important. If you can, support the local businesses. All right, we went there and we spent way more than we should have because, that's a Kiwi business. So it's really good to put that in. Yes, absolutely right. Jason Hutt, like Chinese railroad workers, absolutely right. Really, really important. Yvette, you crack me up. Love the way you express your views on these gritty issues and offer some great advice on this woke and broke stuff. Oi. Thank you very much. Excellento. Kiwi Bear, my roots were the first Pākehā to be born in a special, very special place, area called Pipiwai. Oh, okay, nice. Arrowtown has history worth seeing. Oh, very cool. Yeah, really cool. Really good. Quite interesting, but I think Arrowtown also has a lot of wineries, really great wineries. I was going to sort of geek out a little bit there because a lot of my work with tradies in confined spaces, and wineries are notorious for hydrogen sulfide poisoning. But I won't do that. Okay, I won't go into my area here. All right, James Dark. I don't mind Māori is cools. It's good as it's a national language. Yeah, totally. We should still let our kids learn te reo Māori, but not if they don't want it. Right? Absolutely. I keep going off at my kids. I want them to, well, not going off at my kids, but I encourage my kids. I want my kids to learn the languages of their bloodline. So I do. Tongan's probably going to be a bit hard, but I want them to learn. I've been teaching them a little bit of wangahau, which is niue. I've been teaching them Māori, te reo Māori as well. And I've also been trying to teach them Mandarin because their bloodline also has Chinese in it as well. Really important, I think. I love it, But yeah, don't force it, honestly. Just stupid. All right, so that's what I say about that sort of area. Something I've been discussing for quite a while. And I just want to bring up here, Jonathan Paiaha. On Three Waters, my sister is on the way from Freshwater Talks. Chinese, look at Te Rarawa and the Venta, where Māori took the bones and placed them as chiefs because there was no knowledge of who they were. That is the respect of my ancestors. Shock, bit tough. And that's the thing, we've got to look at history in the context of that placement. Right? So, for example, sometimes we discuss the Bible sort of things and they say, oh my gosh, Jesus approved of slavery. No, he didn't, but he knew to take the history as to what it was, and that's what we've got to do, James Dark, Mandarin is hardly as auto. Oh, okay, but good on you. Keep on trying. 我的中文不好，可是 I can say enough to get feed at a fun bar. All right, so that's something there. So institutional racism, absolutely nonsense. It's great to see New Zealand initiatives actually calling it out for what it is, and if that means that they've got to take that into the empirical data area, fine, no problem. No one can actually prove it as well. So I think that's a great thing. That's really good. I also do want to bring up as well, this is something which is quite important to discuss. Normalization. The normalization of sudden death drags on. Okay, so this element here is actually from the New Zealand doctors speaking out with science. And there's been quite a few articles on it. Yes, counterspin, and I really hope those guys are okay. I need to kick myself in the butt. I have not sent a message to, and I'm really sorry about that. I'll get onto that tonight, and I'll send them a bit of a message. I just hope that they're okay. We'll see what's going on with those guys as well. Well, this one, New Zealand doctors are speaking out with science. So these guys really deal with empirical data. They look at the subset of data sets as well. Very strong with it. And what they've done here is they've shown us a couple of things. One, of course, is that the mainstream media in New Zealand is just constantly with this narrative of just telling people to shut up and just take jabs. We've got these areas here. There we go. Short-term mortality fluctuations. I mean, look at that. That is excess mortality. If you have a look at those orange graphs are excess mortality. We've never had that. This is the insane thing. If you question it, you're a conspiracy theorist, an anti-vaxxer, or a right-wing nut job. It's incredible. So what you're looking at there is the short-term mortality fluctuations. That is excess. That orange bar is empirical data. They are straight numbers. They're not some sort of carved up ideologically aligned bias evidence trying to put it there. They are straight numbers, and the numbers paint that picture. Something is going on which has vastly increased excess deaths. And it's not COVID. And again, here, look here. This is where they put it. They clearly stated, as the government attempts to portray this excess death as being due to COVID-19 disease, proper data analysis shows that this is not the case. Let me read that again. As government attempts to portray this excess death as being due to COVID-19 disease, proper data analysis shows that this is not the case. That means that the New Zealand government, who have paid out mega bucks, when I say mega bucks, I mean millions and millions and millions, have exponentiated the growth of PR spin doctors, as in those who are journalists or those who are, whose jobs are to help massage the messages of the government into it. That they are ones, they keep on saying what they want to say, but the stats say something different. All right, utterly wrong. Risk of SADS can be lowered by avoiding certain activities such as drinking alcohol and other preventative measures, but surely including not being injected with a substance which causes direct damage to the heart muscle and creates inflammatory responses in a number of organs, including blood vessels. Right, so yes, as you know, we've been seeing a lot of the myocarditis that's been coming on, the pericarditis as well. These are statistics. They are not some sort of right-wing conspiracy theory. And the narrative is falling around the world. All right, you look overseas in the US. One of the scientists, I can't remember her name, but there's a scientist there who throughout the epidemic was saying get jabbed, get jabbed, get jabbed. You wear masks all over the place. She has just come out and is proclaiming that masks actually hindered her child's speech development. That in actual fact it's done a great deal of damage, and now she's starting to come out of that and not talk so much. But she's one of those who really pushed that narrative. Over in the UK, they have started to stop it now. Over in, I think it's the Netherlands, they're now having to slowly remove wording from the push for breastfeeding mothers and other people in risk areas. They were saying that they should be jabbed with a vaccine or to be jabbed with boosters, and now those words are now disappearing from the brochures and they've been noticed. Incredible. Kellyanne, absolutely right. Kellyanne, so many deaths and injuries, but we're conspiracy theorists. We were saying that as you know, I was part of a party in 2020, and we were the very first ones. We were the publicly very first ones to say, hey, shut the borders down because we don't want this stuff in here. We were the very first. 8 weeks later was when the Labour Party shut down the borders. And of course, COVID was in at that stage. We were also the first ones to say, whoa, the lockdowns are not good and healthy. The way you've done the lockdowns do not work. They're going to cause us a huge economic disadvantage and huge economic damage. We were saying that also in the early part of 2020. They kept on going with it, and it was never going to work. It caused more damage. And if you look at the horrific delay in cancer diagnosis and the suicidality, the anxiety factors gone through the roof. I think it might have been last year or early this year when we released that report by St. John's that showed that there had been a 30% and 36% increase in suicidality. In cases where the ambulance had to drive out because of suicidal attempts or activations, and 36% increase in those who were 14 and younger. 14 years old and younger, 36% increase. Absolutely extraordinary, But we knew that this was going to come. We allowed the government to shut us down and just treat us like chattel. They became very good friends to big business, not to the greengrocers, not to the fishmongers, not to the butcheries, but to Countdown and to Pack and Save, and I think a little bit on New World. This is a government who have all the tenets of that fascist ideology. Allow means of production to continue, but keep very close relationships with the big businesses. Put regulation upon regulation and regulation onto the small, maybe arguably the medium businesses, and also start to curtail those elements around free speech and democratic process. For example, the select committees, where is the one place where Kiwis can have a say. So it's absolutely nuts as well. Kiwi Bear, yep, 11% increase in funeral turnover. Just saying, absolutely shocking. British police have been told no more call out to hate crime, all to do with perceptions and other crime, violence, etc. is paramount. Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Jackie Collin, I was also saying that in 2020. Yes, yeah, I think you were. I mean, I believe you anyway, but I think I might have actually seen you Jackie Collin name going on about that. Absolutely. Isn't it? It's cold, isn't it? You know, it's cold when you think, man, we were sitting there yelling this out to the world as much as we could see, but most of New Zealanders were just so, I don't know, scared, panicked, in dread, fed all of this 1 p.m. presser stuff that they ate it up. They ate it up and they voted that out. And that's where they gave majority power to the Labour Party, who right now are treating us with such an amount of contempt, it's not even funny. You know, I don't even know why they're bothering. I don't even know why they're bothering with trying to not tax the KiwiSaver anymore, because they'd have to know that they're going to lose hard, surely. But I guess we'll just see what's going on. MSM paid by the government, Kellyanne. Yeah, I mean, I know that technically they're not, but when you've got an interest public journalism fund, of course, that seems to suggest that. Well, you sort of are though, aren't you? Yeah, so absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well said. So excess death contradicts normalisation of sudden death. That's absolutely right. Because some people will say, well, look, SAMS has been around for ages. Yes, it has, technically speaking, but it's never been like that in the spikes and the numbers that we've seen. Never. Okay. An extremely concerning trend where more and more people are dying, especially in 2022. Why is it that this year we are starting to see a big explosion in death? I mean, we're looking at in the future, we are going to be looking back at this and how are we going to feel about ourselves as a people? How are we going to feel about the level of complicity that we engaged in? And how many of our own people are going to try to pretend like, we did the right thing at the time, even back then? I'm sorry, I won't have a bar of it. I just won't have a bar of it. We, and you out there, you stood your ground. I give you so many props to you guys who did not take the jab at all, because I did. I took the jab. It was becoming a real big problem with my family. We were going to lose our house. And so I took it. I took the coercion. And I took it, both me and my wife, we decided to take it as a potential that we're going to be hurt by this vaccination. So we didn't take it because we wanted it. At no stage did we ever want this disgusting jab. Not at all. A lot of my friends took it, and a lot of my friends didn't take it. And I respect both sides, no worries. But and my wife and I were both very clear. We didn't want it at all. The only time we said, well, if they tell us that we've got to vax the kids, then at that stage we would lose the house, and so we were prepared for that. So it's yeah. Let's see, James. Even people on NC didn't like Elliot and others speaking on this stuff in 2020. Oh, yeah, true. That is true. But they knew who I was. So, that's all good in the hood. Wally Tribble. Stories from doctors that had never seen myocardial issues in 40 years, and in the last 18 months seen 28 cases. You're absolutely right, Wally. So I've spoken to some guys. I'll tell you this, and I'm going to be real careful, because this is my experience. I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but I give platelets. It's you can give blood, then plasma, then platelets. I give platelets anyway. There's always a revolving amount of nurses and things like that. Now I've talked to a few of them. They are, and I said this a few times. Oh, I'm not vaccinated yet, because I wasn't at that stage, and they were actually more happy then when I've come in more recently and had to do it, and they've been there. They haven't shown me that. They've just told me a few things, and these are people who are at the front line of working with blood. And I've got no doubt that they know far more than I, far more than the politicians do. So, it really is. Glenn, I'm angry with myself for getting the V. Glenn, bro, I straight up feel you. Feel you hard. Yep, I feel you, man. I wish I didn't. I do. I wish. Even when I was getting it, I actually went up to the very edge of where even my bosses were saying, look, we really respect where you're at. We understand. We see what you're saying, but unfortunately, your role is very much face to face, and they are actually doing it this way as well. We just stuffed. All right. So Glenn, don't be too racked with yourself. I feel you. I'm with you. I do. I look at some of my mates, the Liao, the no jabby people. Hey, yeah, punks. But look, we took it. My wife and I took it with open eyes, knowing that it could cause us damage, either then or in the future. We know that. We accepted that. That's the only way in which we accepted it. We didn't accept it for, this will save our lives. We didn't expect that at all. We already saw the numbers. We already saw all of that. We knew it was absolute garbage. So we took it in that regard. All right. So that's why. All right. And I've seen some people on Twitter say, "Oh my God, does everyone know that you're unvaxxed, Elliot? Does everyone know?" It's like, bro, I'll tell you when I want. I'm telling my crew here. All right. So moving back into this one. All right, and this is the final tragic note. So this is, I didn't know. Yeah. Now these are real events, and I've gone through some of them with some of the guys in NZDSOS, and the names are fictional. 60 years old fire chief, several hours after his booster, aortic rupture. Bad headaches, died following the jab. 12 years old, collapsed at athletics, CPR, died at hospital. 64 years old, holidaying, sudden medical event while swimming, needed vaccines to attend all his disabled son's activities. 53, medical event, mandated at supermarket. 32, medical worker, several headaches after the evening after a booster. All right, single mother. 40-year-old, sudden death playing basketball with son. All right, 50, 62, 59, 14 years old, 30 years old, all over the place. Sudden unexpected death, sudden unexplained death, death labeled as sudden adult death syndrome, and on and on and on and on and on. It's absolutely filthy. Just, and it's really heartbreaking there has to be a reckoning. We have to hold these people to account for the damage that they've done to us. We can't just sit there, and isn't it fascinating that now the mainstream media has gone from trying to inculcate us with dread and fear, and then to say, oh look, the vaccines will save us, and then they just slowly drifted away from that. And now they're trying to say, oh my gosh, we're worried because all these right-wingers are now going into school boards and local elections. They're starting to move into that political game. How dare they? How dare they? They're complicit in the most brutal lockdowns that we've had in New Zealand. It was great fun probably for the first few weeks because, you got to chill out at home and do nothing. And, but even those people who don't know much about politics and that, they did after a while start to realise that something's going really wrong. Yeah, Christine, absolutely right. So sad, and to think the government would scoff. They absolutely would. You're totally right. All right. So on to something that maybe is a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter, hopefully. That is, of course, is that the firefighters that they have decided to go back to the party. It looks like they are going to suspend their strikes until the end of the month at least. All right. And look, it was a Labour Minister, Jan Tinetti, she was able to bring FENZ and the NZPFU, or the New Zealand Firefighters Union, as well as the Fire and Emergency New Zealand, to be able to bring them towards a way to look forward. All right. And this is what has been agreed to. Here, look there. Oops. How would I make it a little bit easier for you to read, shall I? The parties will enter facilitated mediation with the assistance of an agreed independent mediator. Now that's just common law, that's law. All strike notices will be suspended, no further industrial action will continue or occur. FENZ will withdraw the request for facilitated bargaining through the ERA, and no further public communication will occur. Alright, so that's pretty clear cut. Actually, what that's basically saying is that they've agreed that they're going to go back to the table, see if they can work stuff out. Cool, good on them. We'll be keeping a very close eye as to what's going on and when it's happening. Like I said, I can tell you that I've spoken to quite a few of the firefighters there, and they were actually quite livid at people. For example, the CEO of the union, I think it was, because when they had the first strike, he was overseas on a junket tour, so he was getting fed up some lovely food and all that. He also gets paid $540,000 or something like that, and yet he was not all hands on deck to see if he could try to get the guys to the table. Just absolutely incredible. Kate spake end of month and today. Oh, right, true. Well said. Yes, no, you're right. I think I mean I'll have a chat to the team, but that means that end of September. Well said, Kate. Very well said. Good stuff. All right. Vern, I hope they get what they need. Summer is fast approaching. Yeah, well said. Better to strike now while the ground is wet and weather is cool. Too dangerous to be unequipped in the heat of summer. Yeah, well said. So having a chat to those guys, it was chosen to be Friday 11 to 12 because that was also where they could cover it a lot better, and it was much easier to cover any incidences. So even as they were striking, incidents and emergencies did occur. And that is what happened, but because of the carefulness that they put in place, they didn't want to hurt the public. They wanted to make it very loud and clear to the people of New Zealand, but they didn't want the people of New Zealand to suffer. With the firefighters, there's a reason why we trust them more than politicians and other people. There's a reason for that. Here's a great one for you as well. Spoke to a guy who was part of the fleet of vehicles, and now I might get this wrong. You've got the mains, which is a particular model of the fire engines. They were running well. They needed to be upgraded or they needed to be maintained. They were not. The government or the people in the offices decided to make the call to bring in a new type of vehicle, and now those new vehicles, which I think off the top of my head is about $500 million, and instead of actually talking with the people on the ground, the guys who are operational, instead of talking to them about it, they just went off their own areas and ideas, and they decided to bring these heaps of these other vehicles in. The problem was, of course, that the people in charge decided to do a whole bunch of brand new good looking stuff without bothering to ask the people on the ground, and then suddenly you had areas where door lockers that were used for various equipment for the firefighters, that the storage units were either too big or too small, so that the gear would either not fit in, or it would only allow a little bit to fit in, then you had to stick other gear somewhere else. Also, there were cracks starting to appear because they put incompatible top pieces with the chassis of incompatible pieces, and so when it was driving along, it was actually starting to crack. So these vehicles are now being rejected roundly, especially by the Auckland firefighters or the Auckland stations. They now want their old vehicles, and so they've taken the new ones, buggered off them, and just come back with their older ones. They don't want to have a bar of it, and this is that disconnect, where you've got the disconnect between the people on the front line and the ones upstairs. As some of you may know, I'm a youth worker. I look at Parliament, no one there has an idea as to what to do. They really don't know youth work. I think I've seen two MPs, or two Ministers of Parliament who are in the youth, or say that they were in the youth work. That's absolute crap. They got no idea, and I found out about their youth work. All right, one of them is a community work and just gets it because of her name, and the other one, it was a rainbow. It was alphabet stuff. LGBTQIA plus stuff. So again, you talk about the kids who are running amok, violence, ram raids, attacking other children, engaging now in underage prostitution, the whole 9 yards. The Parliament is not got anyone there who can help with the youth problem. Even the people that they go to, the vast majority of the experts they go to are generally Wellington-based NGO sectors who are very close to the Wellington ideology. It's not going to work. And it hasn't. So I think that's right. Let's see. Hey, Elliot, why don't you run to be Minister for Pacific Islanders? You would be good to hold that position. Oh! Oh, thank you, Pei. I appreciate that. Yeah. I get the feeling that I'm saying your name wrong as well. I do apologise if I am. Yeah, I've worked a lot alongside it. I've heard what my rep is in Southside. I'm usually talked about like, is that fair skin guy who talks real eloquently? That is actually what I've heard my reputation to be. And I've also I've heard a lot of negative stuff, but not from crew, not from the frontliners. It's more from those guys who don't like it, because when they come over, then I ask them lots of questions. I will give you one, for example. If anyone on here is a social worker or a youth worker, probably more so a youth worker, now, if you're a youth worker, you now must be a registered youth worker, and you must have years of study behind you or working towards it, and you have to pay money to a Wellington-based place to still be allowed to have a registered youth work registration. It's absolutely disgusting. And if you happen to be a mum who was single mum, and you've gone through hell, and your education's low but you are the best youth worker because you've come out the other side and you're the best youth worker ever. Guess what? Under this new youth worker registration form, which I was a broken record on when they started trying to make it real, you are now you won't be the top rated. You won't be the top rated youth worker that can be done with education, with academic studies in university. Instead, you're given an honorary title of some type of honorary role. It's not as high, and it's quite condescending. Yet those sorts of youth workers will run rings around the ones who've got years and years of experience, go back to Torbay and with mummy, daddy, and they all have a discussion around the table like how their day went. So. All right, I'm being a bit harsh, but actually it is like that. Whereas a lot of our youth, they respond more to pain. Pain responds to pain better. We recognise pain. James, nah, brother. We just say it's Liao rather than Elliot. Oh, very good. Yep, no, sick years. Well said. Okay, so look, we've got a few little bits moment. Oh, okay. All right, I'll be there soon. It's bedtime apparently. All right, so I'll get there. My kids go to sleep a bit late. Sorry. All right, so let's have a look at this as well. Now, this is interesting. I do want to bring this one up. Okay, Winston Peters accuses government of impeding on fundamental rights, rules out working with Labour after 2023 election. All right, so he says the good stuff. Hey, we all know this. Winston Peters says good stuff. All right, he's made up his mind. He's not going to be doing it. All right. By the way, this article is actually written by our friends over in the National Watchman. So they're awesome. If you can follow them, they're great people. Peters having failed, make it back in Parliament. Yada 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 yada. All right, Peters, he's called administration moronic, idiotic. Yeah, absolutely, sure. This is actually a real powerful statement that he made here. Nations which found out all too late that insidious elements in their systems of government, unchallenged, led to tyranny, abuse, inequalities, and a slide to the third world, and consequent misery for all but the privileged few. All right, and we support the right of New Zealanders to disagree with government policy and not be punished for it. And that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Nations which found out all too late that insidious elements in their systems of government, unchallenged, led to tyranny, abuse, inequalities, and a slide to the third world, and consequent misery for all but the privileged few. And that is exactly what Labour is. That's what they're bringing in. You know, it is disgraceful what they are doing. It's utterly shocking. Now, I will say this, and I think this is something which we need to be aware of. But where was Mr. Peters when he installed Jacinda onto the throne, so to speak? Because he put her there, and he went against his own followers as well. So Mr. Peters, when he put Jacinda onto the throne, he controlled that. And then, of course, he got what he wanted, which was deputy and all that sort of stuff. He got foreign. I think he got foreign. He also brought in the UN Migration Compact. In fact, I told my team to leave him alone. So when we were doing our campaign stuff, I expressly told my team, leave Winston alone. And the reason why I want him left alone is because he at least is a handbrake to Miss Ardern. All right, and that was the case. But we started hearing grumblings about the UN Migration Compact. I'm really proud, very proud, and I know some people say, "Oh, how dare you?" I don't care. I am very proud to be a part of the team who released the information of the UN Migration Compact to the public. We were the one who exposed that to the public. We were the first party to do so. ACT then followed, and then National then followed, and then ACT actually just jumped off and decided to sort of support it. But anyway, the UN Migration Compact, which basically said that if someone manages to get over here to New Zealand legally or illegally, doesn't matter how, then they were to be given a house, to be given the dole, to be given everything that a New Zealand citizen would get. Where I'm saying, no, we've got to look after our people first, then we look after others. We don't not look after others. We should look after others, but let's look after our people first, and then we can look after others. And there has to be order. You can't just open the floodgates and let anyone and everyone come in, right? Because that does lead to a lot of violence. Look over in Europe, you've now got the massive migrant. As the migrant flood went through, you also had the rapes just not just skyrocket, but exponentially skyrocket in a lot of areas. And yes, there are no-go zones. All right, I know mainstream media want to say, those are things no-go zones. There are no-go zones, and there are huge reports of rapes, even when they try to downplay it. It's absolutely shocking over there. Winston Peters admitted that he signed the UN Migration Compact. Do you know when he admitted that? He admitted that on the last hour of the last day of Parliament sitting. And that was in, and I do apologise, it was either 2018 or 2019, but I think it was 2019. But it was the last day, the last hour of the last day of the Parliament sitting. That's when he admitted it. You can't get more near fictionally villainous than that. You really can't. It was disgusting. And on that same day, I released something to the public. I said, right, that's it. Gloves off. Let's go for him. And then we did. We mocked him and we did memes and we mocked him with facts. We didn't go after character, but we called out all the disgusting policies that he was actually part of. Don't forget, it was New Zealand First who also announced proudly the gender ideology that is now coursing through our education system. All right, that was put through in September 2020, I think it was announced then, and Tracy Martin was very proud to put that out there. And now, of course, our children are now being genderized as well. They are having alphabet ideology being stuck on them and in them, and this is how it gets worse and worse. So New Zealand First, they spat on their own supporters, and I'm sorry, but Winston knows how to sound good. I don't care. I want to see someone do good. All right, be good. All right, no one's perfect, but stick to your word, bro. Stick to your word. If you say you're conservative, then be a conservative. Don't be a weather vane. Just going, this sounds good. People are going to get angry, so I'm going to say, the tyranny of the evil men, da-da-da-da-da. But you don't mean jack? Nah, mate. If you're going to say it, say it. All right? Yeah, absolutely right. Tracy Martin did co-sign the abortion bill, and that was, of course, the most extreme abortion bill that we've had in the Western civilization. All right? Utterly disgraceful. So yeah, Winston Peters sounds good. Don't get me wrong, sounds great, but I just don't trust him, and I don't mean that in I don't trust him. He's proven himself to not be very trustworthy for that. All right. Just so, well, look, I've got like a few more that I did want to talk about, but I think I'll just bring up one last one. All right, there's a few. There's the incarceration reports. There's the what else do we have? The incarceration reports. We've got the the state care problem, the state and abuse problem as well. But I just want to show this last one anyway. All right, and that is the government's paying out. All right, they are being very focused on communications instead of delivery. Of course, come on, we know this. Nearly $1 billion. That last year alone, they spent nearly $1 billion. I think in the years since before that was something like $500 million. I think the last time in national, they've spent about $200-300 million. But nearly $1 billion. Come on, man, nearly $1 billion. You've got Kiwis who are now struggling with mortgage repayments. They've got the cost of living crisis. They're now they're staring down the barrel of a recession, no less. And who knows if that's going to turn into a depression. We're looking for the next quarterly figures. We are suffering. The hunger for labour is out there. We're starving. I tell you, I'm on the sites. Right, sites are cannibalising other sites for just workers to try to get them in there. We're still borrowing. We're still printing money. We're building up a higher and higher stack of cards. It really is. And on top of that, you've got the Labour Party, who spent nearly $1 billion last year on quote-unquote consultants alone. And I want to make, the idea is that Parliament are the people who go out there and chat away and find the reasons what they need to be. They are supposed to be the experts. They're not supposed to get into Parliament and then they try to figure out what to do. That's not how it works. They're supposed to already have great ideas that they're ready to implement in there and go for it. With some sort of communication with the front line. That's the idea of it. You're not supposed to stuff up, get in there, and then decide it. So, this is just insane. It really is insane. $939 million. Come on, mate. Come on. Absolutely mental. All right, Waka Kotai. You've got huge increase in public relations. Public relations staff hired under the Labour government. Right, so when Labour came to power, there were 339 communication staff. 339. All right, okay, that's a reasonable number. 339 comm staff. 2021, this has climbed nearly 50% to 497. And the budget for the government newsletters going out, the spin, it's gone from roughly $34 million in 2017, and now it's at $55 million in 2021. And that's just one small department of them, or one department anyway. The amount, 65 of the communication staff earn over 100K. And these are just for how to get the public to sort of be okay with stuff, So when you think about the cycleways, the clip-on bridges, the idea of the CRL link and all these sorts of ones, just to shove that down our throat, but for us to smile while we're being shoved down our throat, and also funding not just the roads, the train set, the cycleways, but also funding the spin messaging back to us to think that, it's all good in the hood. You can't make it up. We're in that type of environment anyway that you just can't make this sort of stuff up. You really can't. So look, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this nightcap. Look, I've still got a bit of drink. Lothlorien, so if you can support our people whenever you can, it's always a good thing. But like I said, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. We'll be back on Talanoa Soul. We've got some great things to have a chat about. Sorry. I did also want to say there was a couple of things that I just want to show you just a little bit. Maybe some lighter side of stuff there. Oh, look at that one. Hey. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Look, you see, I am a little bit of I wouldn't say I'm a geek, but yeah, I do like that sort of thing there. And I did want to just show one thing. Sorry, this was what I really wanted to show you. And I think this is actually something, because, Avi Yemeni, as you might know him, great fellow. I've been following him for years. Just fun stuff. I even followed him during the Hong Kong riots. All right, this is from Senator Ralph Babbitt. And this was a really powerful element here. Monday, 22nd August, independent media journalist Avi Yemeni denied entry. Denying entry was political in nature. It absolutely was. Leaked email from Interpol Wellington to Interpol Canberra reads, Interpol Wellington received information that the two above, believed to be Australian nationals, intending to travel to New Zealand. New Zealand police would like to stop the two from entering New Zealand and urgently seek any information regarding criminal convictions or any information tending to show they are individuals of bad character associated to criminal groups and individuals or far-right extremism groups. And look at this. Journalistic freedoms, and this is a thing. Journalistic freedoms must be protected. A free and open press is the foundation of a democratic, safe and stable society. The actions of Interpol New Zealand are contrary to Article 3 of the Interpol Constitution, which states, it is strictly forbidden for the organisation to undertake any interventional activities of a political, military, religious or racial character. Have a look at that again. Have a look at that. This is from New Zealand. This is from New Zealand, Interpol in New Zealand. NZ Police would like to stop the two from entering New Zealand and urgently seek any information regarding criminal convictions or any information tending to show that they are individuals of bad character. You've got the media who keep on saying far-right, conspiracy theorists, extremists. Avi Yemeni is none of those things. The media want to paint him as that sort of thing. Then you've got the New Zealand police begging for information. It is absolutely disgraceful, and some good person actually blew the whistle. And this is exactly what we've seen more and more. It is foul, absolutely foul. It is political. It is a political agenda, and I don't think we need to bother with the whole people calling us, I don't know, what was it, conspiracies or anything like that. Utterly disgusting. It really, really is, and we've got to make sure that people know these sorts of things. This is happening in our time. They think that they can just do this to us. But look, it's beautiful to see that more of us are standing to and having a good fight over this stuff. That's what's really good. Discourse is important. Free speech is vital for our society. But look, I look forward to seeing you. Even if I don't, then I'll catch up with Talanoa Soul on Friday. And also, just to let you know, we're really excited. We're the only media who've been granted exclusive access to the Forum on the Family next week. So we'll be making sure we do some lives, and we're having some great interviews then as well. Really exciting times. We want to thank you so much for all the support and all the donations that you guys have been giving us. As you know, we can't actually go to the BSA because they don't like us. All right. So, but in the meantime, look, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless New Zealand.